is Phyllis Italiano, and with me today is somebody very special, very special. I will say that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that.
Thank
You are
you, Phyllis.
a very special guy because your feelings about East Hampton match mine. We love it out here. And this is Jeff Bragman, who is our council person, has been for 3 years, and is now going to be in a primary running for supervisor. And we really are behind you.
Well, it's good to be here, chatting with you again, and I know that you feel the same way I do about East Hampton, which is it's not just a place where I live; it's a part of who I am, really.
Oh, that's a wonderful way of putting it. I couldn't agree with you more.
It's really true. I like to tell people I'm running for the same reason that I ran for town board 3 years ago, which is that, for me, East Hampton, it's not a reality television show. It's not a brand name, and it's never been the Hamptons. It's a real town with real issues and real people, and it's been my home for 35 years, and because it's my home, I want to protect it. And that is my first impulse about, why participate in the local government, because it really is the mechanism that can help us protect what we have, which is really something to cherish. And it's not a given that it will stay. We have to work to make sure it stays.
Boy, I couldn't agree with you more. If I could put my hands up and keep out everything with my hands up that will destroy what we have.
Well, I think it's easy to sort of take for granted, what we have here, but it's the reason that people want to be here so much. It's not really for the parties or the nightlife. It's for the tremendous natural beauty that we have. I mean, this is an unbelievable location. It's a world-class place to live, and I think we have to be careful to protect it. And that does mean occasionally saying no. I've told people that it's almost a mantra with me that some people get upset because they say, oh, East Hampton is the land of no. Like they always say no to you, the government. And I said, well, I don't believe in East Hampton being the land of N-O, no, but I certainly believe in East Hampton being the land of no, K-N-O-W, as in know before you go. So I really believe in looking things over in a deliberative way, especially, projects and development and events, and keeping in mind that we are really a small town at heart. I mean, I know we've had an influx recently because of the pandemic, but essentially we're a town of 25,000 people. And that's our identity, and I'd like to preserve that. There are some issues that are a challenge on that front. One that comes to mind, of course, is housing affordability. And, that there's always a tension between, developing, plans for housing that's more affordable and at the same time fitting it into the character of the community. And there's some tension there. So there are things that we have to adjust to, but I think we always kind of have to keep our eye on the ball that, I would like East Hampton to be substantially the same as it is now in 50 years from now, to the extent that it's possible. We have seen a lot of changes. I've been here 35 years, hard to believe at this point, and a lot of things have changed.
I know it's very hard to even see some of those changes. I too, and I haven't been here 35 years, but I have seen changes, and I get very upset by those changes.
I know. I like to tell people the story that back in the day, not only when Labor Day came, that, Main Street, you could sit down on Main Street. There was like no activity. So to some extent, I'm happy there's more activity, in all seasons. But one thing I really remember and will always cherish is the sharp turn where you turn to go toward the high school. back in the day, there was a dog that slept in the middle of that road.
Oh, wow.
And you would have to stop your car, and he would get up and amble off onto the sidewalk, and then you could continue. So some of the changes, I think, are not going to come back. But in terms of, development, I've been involved in local politics since the 1980s. And 1984 was sort of the revolution. That's when Judith Hope came in,
Yes.
and they adopted a new zoning code. And from 1984 through the 90s were the big battles, those big zoning battles. And I feel, privileged to have been a part of that. I was the planning board attorney and the zoning board attorney and the architectural review board attorney during that era. And these were real battles. I mean, people were coming in. I remember, Barcelona, where the Sag
yes.
Harbor Golf Course is.
Yes.
That there was a proposal to have a 150 unit subdivision on that land, and that was a battle that was ongoing, through the 90s basically until we bought it. And I remember that we condemned the land eventually, and it was challenged, and it went up in the courts. And when they finally decided, they awarded the highest award in history, the history of the state of New York, and it was. The astonishing amount, I think, was $18 million for all of that land, all of that, what we call Barcelona now, $18 million. And it was
wow.
shocking back in the day.
Wow.
So it shows you how things have changed.
That's amazing.
I mean, my clients, actually, I came in and represented a group of people that owned Shadmore State Park, and they had been fighting for a large development for years, and when they finally changed their plan and decided to do something much more environmentally sensitive, I represented them, and we actually negotiated an agreement that if our 4-lot subdivisions was on 100 acres, they wanted 4 lots and 50 acres in reserve, and we said, if you don't oppose us on the subdivision, we will put it out in the market, and we'll sell it to a conservation group at the market price. And that's what happened. That's how Shadmore State Park actually finally came into being.
Oh, my goodness.
And again, that price was, it was the astonishing price also of $18 million. And that's how it came into being. So there is a way to control, I have experience in dealing on both sides, the development side and the environmental protection side, and negotiating and coming to an agreement that protects the town. And that's still my interest. I really do want to protect, what we have here. I think that, in general, we should try to do the most we can with the least we need. I don't really, I don't feel like I got elected to build grand buildings particularly. I'm not saying you can't freeze East Hampton in time. No one wants to do that or can do it realistically. But,
Gee, I wish I could.
well, I have to say, sometimes when I look back at the historic photos of 27, what was 27, at one time it was a dirt track, and there are pictures of Model A Fords on it, and I thought, I could live with that. But, we do need to change, and, the village is undergoing some, identity issues and deciding if it wants to change, and I think they seem to want more activity that will make it more like Sag Harbor is what I think they're talking about, which is, and Sag Harbor is a very successful village. It's one of the more it's a real location. It's not just, it's a place that you want to be. And that's a.
Yeah, and I hope that doesn't change.
I hope so too. I mean, there's concerns, big new issue is, with the theater and buying up the properties, and how do you figure out parking? And we have those issues too. But, I think a fundamental restraint on what we do is that we are, we're standing, walking on top of the water that we drink. And that's
such a key. I've used to say that to people. Do you know where the water comes from? And we once did it on LTV, where they asked people where the water comes from, and people said, you turn on the faucet, that's where the water comes from. They did not know that the water comes from under their feet.
I know. It's sort of surprising. A lot of people say, oh, it's city water. It's like, well, not really. It's, you can have public water, but it's all coming from the same place. And
That's right. Even the public water is from under your
It's
feet.
from under your feet
That's
in
right.
public water supply wells. And I've handled cases where I've, fought to protect those public supply wells from development that might, intrude on it. Because when you drill one of those wells, they have a large circle around them, which contributes to the well. And that's why we've protected so much land around the airport. That area actually is a very, very significant watershed and aquifer area, and that's why there's so much preserved land there. It's a special groundwater protection area, county-designated special groundwater protection area, and it's the watershed to Georgica Pond, which is brings up another issue that's a very serious issue at the moment on the east end of Long Island, and that is all our coastal ponds going from here west are suffering from these harmful algae blooms that are potentially dangerous. We've had, a couple of pets that died in Georgica Pond because of these algae blooms, and they're largely fueled by septic and runoff that injects
People
phosphorus
don't
and-
realize that every time they put something on their ground as well. People, they want the green lawns, lawns as far as I'm concerned.
I'm the exception to the green lawn. I have not, I know I'm very aware of water problems, and I don't put anything on my lawn.
Neither do I.
It's really a lawn only in name. It's really, I'd like it
Yes.
to go entirely to clover, which is a good, cover.
Yes, it's
ground
wonderful.
cover.
Yes.
And I'm lucky in the spring, I get a lot of moss, which I really like.
I
mean,
love the moss. I get it in certain areas in my half acre, and I just love it. It's so
I do
beautiful.
too. And it is important to know that anything you put down your drain, ultimately, we're drinking, so.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, in a way, that's the challenge here, but in a way, it, kind of keeps us honest because, as I like to say, we're all drinking from the same well. So it really, behooves us to be careful because we're protecting not only ourselves, but our neighbors. And, we had a huge problem in Wainscott. When I got on the town board, it was the first order of business that Wainscott.
Yes, you saved Wainscott.
I certainly had Wainscott's welfare in mind. And the one thing that I did fight for was we knew the solution to Wainscott would be to bring in public water, because that's the only thing in the long run that would fully satisfy people. But bringing in public water took 1.5 to 2 years. And
Yeah.
while they were waiting, I didn't think that giving them bottled water was enough. I had senior citizens calling me saying, I can't lift the bottles, I have grandkids visiting me, we're bathing in this water.
Yes, and that's when I had a friend of mine who lived there, and he would say, I'm showering in that water.
It was not a good, and the chemicals are very serious. They were perfluorinated chemicals, PFOs.
PFOs.
So I was a very strong advocate for funding in-home filtration systems while they were waiting for the public water to come in. And I'm proud that I fought that, and I'm proud that the town eventually agreed, and we set up a fund, and we got going on that. And I think it was important. I mean, this is another reason that I'm running, is because I do see the government as a mechanism to help people. I mean, that's the only reason I want to participate in government. I think it's a bigger institution, and it's more powerful, and it's better funded, and we can really help people if we think things through and act carefully. And Wainscott, is a very good example of where we did that, where there was a crisis and there was a way to make people safer. And I would do anything to do that. I wouldn't, if it were me in my home, and I even said it publicly. I said, it doesn't matter if it's Wainscott or Springs or Montauk, wherever it is, it was the right thing to do. And, that was the era of Flint, Michigan, where they really didn't do the right thing.
Please,
So
God.
I see it as, as important. And they're big things and little things we can do. Right now, I've been working on the preserving the Brooks Park property, which is, I don't know if the folks who are watching this know, but James Brooks was a very famous abstract expressionist artist, friend of Jackson Pollock. His wife, Charlotte Park, was also a renowned artist, and the story of how they got to where they got is very interesting. It involves, I'm not sure you remember, but Jeffrey Potter was their friend, and he's Job Potter's father.
Yes, I do know that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you know that.
Yeah.
I knew Jeffrey. We were kind of friends. It was, I mean, we were kind of from different worlds, but, I liked Jeffrey. He had a lot of stories, and he moved them into that location. And so I've talked to the National Trust, and they're very interested in putting his studio on the National Register of Historic Places. So it's a nice project, and it's something that and we landmarked the building, and frankly, the supervisor was fighting to tear that building down for a long time. And I'm happy to have been a part of the effort that got public opinion behind saving it. I got a letter from Assemblyman Fred Thiel, who was aware of the project and is an expert on community preservation funds, and I passed that letter around, and then the ARB, the Architectural Review Board, decided that it should be saved, and now the Arts Committee has written a letter, so there seems to be sort of a critical mass of opinion to save that. And this is one of the buildings that makes East Hampton the remarkable place that it is. So.
Yes, indeed. People don't realize that the reason why these artists came to this area is because of the light.
I hear that. I hear
That light. And I see that light sometimes and I say, no wonder, look at this light.
I happen to agree with you on that. I do think there's something special about the light, but I had a cynical friend who once said, yeah, the light's great. They say that about Paris, they say it elsewhere, but I do think I kayak out here in the summer. I know you swim.
Every day.
This
I've already
woman
done
is
it.
a powerful swimmer. You're like an everyday swimmer.
Absolutely.
And even into the fall, I know.
I mean, I already swam in this. I've already been in the water.
It's cold. Isn't it like 58
It's
degrees?
freezing, but I've been in the water.
Well, God bless you. I grew up near very icy Great Lakes, and I'm not sure I'm that friendly with cold water. But, I kayak out here, and at one point we were talking, I think it was in a discussion about airport noise, and I said, I can kayak on Northwest Harbor, and it is so quiet that I can hear the clinking of the rigging of moored sailboats like, 1,500, 2,000 feet away. That's how quiet it is. And it's stunningly beautiful. I mean, certainly it's just a reminder of, it just makes you happy to be alive, to be able to open your eyes and just take it in.
That's a good way of putting it.
It
It
is.
makes you happy to be alive.
It does.
Yes.
And I want to use that enthusiasm constructively in the local government. I really think it's important that we recognize what we have and try to preserve it at the same time that we engage that government in helping ourselves out. And that's what I've tried to do. And I'm going to say I have a reputation for being candid. I'm going to call it, and I think that's important. I really am a believer in transparent government, not just as a slogan, but, I worked for, 30 years or more as an attorney on local environmental issues. And I learned to trust the people, and I learned to trust neighbors and their knowledge of their neighborhoods. And I'll tell you, I'd be prepared, and I'd put on a suit and tie, and I'd come into meetings, and I would know after a certain degree of experience that there was always somebody who would stand up who just had ordinary knowledge of the neighborhood that would kind of get up and say the one comment that really nailed the issue. And after a while, I just began to appreciate that. I think we need to listen to people, and the more that we let them understand what we're doing on those town board meetings, the more they get it, the more help they can give us. And that's been, that's been sort of a watchword for me. I really think, I'm not sure that I think that government, that people in government have all the answers. I believe in that kind of governance, that like, we've thought this up and here's the idea. I'd rather have things evolve, through the public, invite them in and say, what do you think? Is this building the right size? Is it the right location? Are we doing it well? Because it just we make better decisions when we listen to the public. So for me, it's critical. It's foundational.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely right. Even when you are in a school, I'm not sure, of course, that's my background, but when you're in a school, you have to listen to your teachers and what it is that they're talking about and what they're interested in seeing.
I know you have a long history as an educator.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And
But it's like everything. You have to have a vision of what it is you really want. Your vision is to keep East Hampton what it has, that quality of ruralness, instead
do.
of being, Nassau
do.
County.
Yeah,
We want that.
I agree with that. I think we have to be really careful about, because it doesn't happen in big steps. It's like a death by 1,000 cuts. You just start doing little things, and after a while you go, oh, we've really changed, what we have here. And it's not a good way to go. I think we have to be very, very attentive to it. And I think listening to the public is a big part of it. And I do think, I wish more people really tuned into the town board meetings and understood what was going on. Sometimes it's a little hard to understand what's going on. But I've tried to, I try to be plain spoken. I try to speak in a way that people can understand. I have a motto about attorneys that, if you don't understand your attorney, you need a new attorney, because things should be easily explained. Even complex issues should be easy, to explain, or at least explainable. And I feel that way about the town board, that, the more clarity and candor that we bring to our endeavor, the better job that we're going to do. And that is, that really is a big part of, why I'm, in the business of government at the moment. And I also have a stubborn belief that if you were saying like you like the direction that I want to take. And I kind of feel that if people understand sort of your goal, you can disagree with them along the way. And I think they'll accept it if they see that you're sort of moving in the direction of a goal that makes sense to them. And that's kind of what I want to convey. I don't think we always have to agree on the town board. I think the disagreement is what, mixes up the ideas and makes you think twice. And I don't care whose idea it is. If somebody, can surprise me with something, that's somebody I can learn from. And I feel that way about, my fellow board members. They have good ideas, and I like listening to them. It helps. I don't always agree. They don't always agree with me, but the mix is important. That's why that's why I want to be supervisor at this point. I'd like to sort of bring that point of view to the town board as much as possible.
I think it sounds like a very good thing to bring that kind of openness and discussion and getting to agreements, that are valid.
We have a lot of the foundation there. I mean, we have, great citizen advisory committees, as you're familiar with.
Yes.
And, they provide terrific input. And I like listening to them. And I think some of the structure's there, but I do think we could, I have to say, as elected officials, everybody's afraid of being wrong. You're always afraid of making a mistake. And it tends to make you very cautious about what you say in public. And sometimes you just want to break through and go, I don't agree with this. I don't think it's a great idea. Or I think this is a great idea. Let's go for it, and bring some sort of enthusiasm and spontaneity to it. So I don't think it can hurt. I think the more people participate, understand, and involve themselves, the better the results will be.
Well, that's why my money's always been on you.
Well,
Because I couldn't agree with you more.
well, Phyllis, we've been friends for years now, and it is good to see you again. It's been a while. We've all been sort of under house arrest, which has
Oh, boy, I'll say.
it's been a little difficult, but it feels like, change is in the air, and I'm glad to see that.
Yes.
And we're hoping we're going to have a more normal summer. I think there's a little concern on the town board that it not get out of hand, because there's a lot of pent-up desire to get out.
And not only that, but there's also more people out here than there have ever been.
Yes.
You know, and that's concerning.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it took me a almost double the time to get here today.
Yes.
And I was amazed at that.
It started really at the start of the pandemic. We had virtually like a summer season in that first March, April, that first period. We had people, coming out in droves buying houses. It's driven the real estate market up.
That's
and
right.
It's been like summer. The crowds have been like summer. I'm not sure, it reminds me a little of the post 9/11 time. And then a number of people went back, but a lot stayed, and I think that's probably going to be the same. Also, our air traffic went up dramatically, not air traffic coming in, but air traffic going out during the week, boosted up, which was a surprising, result of the pandemic. And, the remote meetings, which we now are all so comfortable doing, are likely going to enable, more people to stay here and do their jobs. So it may.
Okay, well, listen, I can't tell you, June 22nd?
June 22nd, and I'd like people to trust me with their vote. It's going to be a bit hectic for the next 2 months.
Let me tell you something, Jeff. Of all the politicians I've ever known in my life, you're the one I trust the most. Truly, truly, I must say. You have a very keen sense of what this place is all about, and I know you're out to protect it. And that's what I want.
Well, I can't ask for more. Thank you for that.
So, my pleasure. Glad we had a chance to talk again.
Let's do it sooner rather than later
Yes.
again.
Yes, we will. We will indeed.
Thank you, Phyllis.
My pleasure, Jeff, always.